Okay, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. As we go to the PArsha of this week, PArsha Yitro. This is the center of everything, the portion of Matan Torah, the portion of giving the Torah. It's all the build-up from Bereshis and Shemais. We come to PArsha Yitro. It's like everything is beforehand. All is a prelude to this PArsha. Everything afterhand is the aftermath of this PArsha. This is the PArsha of all PArshas. It is the portion of all portions. It is the portion that holds everything together, my friends. It's the portion of the giving of the Torah. The Rebbe, in this PArsha, in this book, we're holding on page 73, PArsha Yitro, page 73 in this beautiful Torah studies book. Okay, the verse says as follows in text number 1, Exodus chapter 19, verse number 2. It says, Vayisu Mirafidim, and they traveled from a place called Refidim. Vayavoyu Midbar Sinai, and they came to the mountain, to the desert of Sinai. And Vayachnu Bamidbar, they encamped in the desert. Vayichan Yisham Yisrael Neged Ahar, and Israel camped there opposite the mountain. That's the verse. This is the verse, one of the verses right before the giving of the Torah, right before the verse of the, which was actually in the reading, the giving of the Torah is actually in chapter, in the sixth reading of the portion. So what's interesting in this verse is, if you look at the verse, you know Hebrew well, it all starts off in plural, by Yisu, and they travel, Vayavoyu, and they came, Vayachnu, and they camped, and then suddenly it goes into singular. Vayichan, and he camped. It goes from plural to singular. That's number 1. No, it says Vayichan Sham Yisrael. The people camped. So right. So Vayichan is singular. That's number 1. Number 2 is, what do you have to say Vayichan Sham Yisrael? Why do you have to say who else camped here? Who else? Vayichan Sham Yisrael. The Jewish people camped there. What is it to say that? Who else was with them? So Rashi's bothered by it. Rashi, the commentator on the Torah, in text and page number 73, Rashi says, answers the question a little bit. He says, and Israel camped there as one person with one heart. Ki ish echad b'leiv echad. If you can imagine. Ki ish echad b'leiv echad. All these million people, whatever, 1.5, 2 million people that were there, all camped ki ish echad, like one man with one arm, with one hand, with one heart. And then actually has to put in a zinger, and he has to continue. Avol sharcho chanias, but all the rest of all the encampments was b'tarumes or b'achlekes, the Jewish way, with complaints and arguments. There was one time in history that all the Jewish people had one heart and one soul. One heart and one soul. And that's what the pasuk tells us. It tells us all the traveling before was plural because there was arguments. And afterwards, that moment, phenomenal, Vayichan, Yisrael, one Jew. There was like one Jew there. Even though there was millions of Jews, there was one Jew there. One Jew. And that one Jew was these millions of Jews of one Jew. What a phenomenon. We're hoping for a day. Ki ish echad b'leiv echad, like one soul, one person. Why? Why was it only there? Why was it only there? Why was the only place there? So Maimonides says the answer to that question is Gadol HaShalom. Peace is great. We need peace for the Jewish people. For the entire Torah was given to bring about peace within the world. That's what the Torah was given. Shenemar, as it says, Darchei Noyam, Chol Nesivaseh Shalom. The ways are pleasant. The ways of the Torah are pleasant, and all its paths are peace. Now I ask you a question. According to this, the Torah is pleasant and peaceful, right? If you ever learn Gemara in your life, Talmud in your life, you know that it's a total opposite. It's total opposite. No, I don't know about death and destruction, but it's arguments. Go into the Talmud, you're going to find 500, everybody argues, one argues with another. And furthermore, look at the next text, in text number 4. The word, the Gemara, the Medrash says, the words of the Torah are not stated definitely. You won't find anything in the Torah that says definitely, seemingly. Rather, every law that God taught Moshe, he presented 49 paths in which the ruling is pure and 49 paths in which the ruling is impure. That means the Torah was given already with too many options, many opinions. Moshe said to God, Master of the universe, how will you ever render a definite ruling? If we have so many opinions, how do you come to a conclusion? If you are putting in the system already that there are many opinions, how can you take many opinions and come to a conclusion? Okay, you'll do that opinion, I'll do my opinion. You have an opinion, I have an opinion. You got your rabbi, I got my rabbi. This is gonna be a peaceful coexistence. So God answered him, follow the majority. Is that peace? Is that peace? Follow the majority? What about the minority? What about the minority go away peaceful? What is the answer? Follow the majority. What about the minority? And does the minority have to agree with the majority? Does the minority suddenly agree with the majority? The minority doesn't agree with the majority. So what is the meaning? How do you put a Torah? How do you say the Torah is a book of peace and a book of harmony when we know it's not harmony? We have arguments. We have difference of opinion. You have 2 Jews. You got 3 opinions. That's it. And they don't come together. Okay, so we go to majority. You go vote, and we have a majority. Who's happy with any majority? The majority. The minority is not happy. Demonstrate. Minorities demonstrate. That's what minorities do. So we're unhappy. So what is the meaning? If the majority rules it's impure, rule it's impure. If the majority rules it's pure, rule it's pure. That's the way. Why didn't the Torah state if it's pure or not pure? That's it. Seemingly the Torah should have given an opinion right away and said what is the truth. God says they're both true. It's pure and it's impure. Okay, now I'm really mixed up. Is it pure or is it impure? It's pure, it's impure. What do I do with that? Go to the majority. How do you learn this? How do you work this out? How do you work this out? That's why in general, that you cannot, it's very hard, even you learn Gemara, it's very hard to know the halacha in the Gemara. You got to go to Shulchan Aruch. So you go to Shulchan Aruch, he'll tell you yes or no. It won't say A, B, do what you want. Right? Even if you'll have an argument in halacha, he'll tell you, do this. The halacha is like this. Imagine if they said to you, it's this and this, I don't know what to do.
Isn't that what they say with this rabbi?
Not in Shulchan Aruch. In Code of Jewish law, it tells you do this.
Maimonides says this.
Maimonides.
And Cairo says this. And so who do we follow?
Right. So therefore, if you're Ashkenazi, you follow Cairo. And if you're a Sephardi, you follow Rambam.
What if I identify as a Sephardi?
So you do the Rambam. So you follow the Rambam.
And just say-
You gotta pick.
And there's only two?
Usually two, Sephardic and Ashkenazic.
No, there's only two,
Well, that's no, there's many. Right?
What? No, you have many. You ultimately, the Yosekar is going to come. What is it? No, it's not Yosekar. Yosekar is like the Rambam. He's a Sephardi. It's the Ramah. It's Ramesh Islis, the
so
Ramah.
there's three.
The Rambam and Yosekar is really no, because the Rambam is not the code of Jewish law. That's number one. The Rambam wrote a book of Jewish law. The code of Jewish law is of Yosekar. That's the code of Jewish law. The Rambam, not the code of Jewish law. You don't learn the Rambam. You don't learn the Rambam to establish law. You have to learn Rabbi Yosef Cairo. That's the Jewish law. In Rabbi Yosef Cairo, you have two things. You have the Ramah and Rabbi Yosef Cairo.
What about Taz?
That's not Jewish law. The law is Rabbi Yosef Cairo. You have Taz, Shach. You have a lot of arguments, but the law is the law. You have the law. You follow the law. If you're Sephardi, you follow a certain kind of a law. If you're Ashkenazi, you can follow. There'll be a different aspect of law. Now, why did that happen throughout history? Because ultimately, Gullus, the exile brought about the separation of Jews between the East and the West, so to say, and ultimately Jews, the Israeli and the Arabs, the Arab part of the world. Were more Rabbi Yosef Cairo, and the Germania, a part of the world, and Poland ultimately were more Ashkenazic. Ashkenazic and Sephardic is a new invention. Is the time of Rabbi Yosef Cairo. It's not the times the Jews were all together. There was one law, right?
So when all
Destruction of the temple brought about this whole thing, Sephardic and Ashkenazic. In a way,
the temple,
the destruction of the temple.
Tzfat and Yerushalayim.
There was always competition.
So it's also
No, that was different. That because Tzfat, because Yerushalayim was a seed of learning.
right.
Ultimately, it moved to Tzfat by the destruction of the temple. It moved to Tzfat. So there always was. There's four holy that separated. There's four holy cities in Eretz Yisrael: Yerushalayim, Tzfat, Tveria, Hebron. There was this major struggle between Yerushalayim and Tzfat. That's one of the reasons it said there was an earthquake in Tzfat. Yerushalayim had to, being Tzfat down a little bit, it had an earthquake there. So, but those are ultimately two great capitals in a way of the Jewish nation, Tzfat and Yerushalayim.
Tzfat was basically
Sfat, no, in those times, no Sephardic Ashkenazic. It was not times of Shimba Yechoy. There was no Sephardic Ashkenazic.
okay. Thank you.
The truth is, the Sephardic and Ashkenazic is all in the Gemara. See, it's all ultimately in the Gemara. It was all established based on the way you learned the Gemara. It was in the Gemara. It was not Sephardic Ashkenazic. In the Gemara, it might have been a machlekes, an argument between one sage and another sage. And the Gemara usually doesn't come into halacha, doesn't tell you always the law. What's the law? And Sephardic went one way and Ashkenazic went the other way in the Gemara itself. So really, if you really want to go to the Sephardic and Ashkenazic real fundamental differences, we're not talking about minhag and customs. Customs is a whole different law. We're talking about law. Okay? So for example, the concept of where you have different Sephardim, Ashkenazic in law, because prayer, the way they pray, the way they pronounce the word is not a law. That's customs. You have a lot of customs by Jews. Minhagim, you have a lot of different minhagim. It has nothing to do with law. I'm talking about law. So for example, eating rice and not eating rice. That started off in the Talmud. Passover. That's where you have major difference between Sephardim and Ashkenazim. Where do you have major differences? The way we say words, that's not a law. The way we daven is not a Jewish law. The way we put on tefillin is not a Jewish law. The law is to put on tefillin. The way you put on tefillin is the customs of different customs by Jews. And even Ashkenazim have different customs. How to put on tefillin. Even the Sephardim itself, they have different customs. So trust me, the majority of difference between Ashkenazim and Sephardim is not in law, per se. Besides, again, you have the major thing is eating, and that didn't start off in between Rabbi Yosef Cairo and that started off in the Gemara. The Gemara has a question of what is rice, and the Gemara is in a dilemma, and therefore the Ashkenazim took the more harsher stance in the Gemara, and the Sfarim took the more lenient stance in the Gemara. And that's how the different. That's a law, because by the Ashkenazim, rice is chametz. By the Sfarim, rice is allowed. So that started off in the Gemara.
We talk about conversions. Can you convert from Ashkenaz?
Yeah.
If you prefer corn on the cob.
Yeah, it says. So tradition is that if a girl goes to her husband's customs. So if a Sephardi girl marries an Ashkenazi, she becomes Ashkenazi. If a Sephardi girl, Ashkenazi girl marries a Sephardi, she becomes the traditions of the Sephardi. But again, there's very few situations that you have halacha. We're real things. We're all doing the same halacha when it comes to the basis of Yiddishkeit. We all eat chametz on Pesach. We all eat matzah on Pesach. We all do the same concepts. The different customs, the way we daven, the way we put this, big difference. Ashkenazim is Sephardi. The big difference is the way you express yourself. The way the Torah said, the tough, the patach. There's no tough. There is a tough. It doesn't make yes.
So like, what is it?
You promised that? That's a statement or it's a promise? Yeah.
Question. What if a person is like half Sephardic and half Ashkenazi? What do they do on Pesach?
You follow your father's tradition.
The father. Oh, okay.
There's no thing is half Ashkenazi, half Sephardi. If your father is Sephardi, you're Sephardi. If your father is Ashkenazi, you're Ashkenazi. End the story. Now you have thousands of Jews that are not Ashkenazi, not Sephardi. They're becoming religious. Their parents are not didn't have any customs. Okay, they can make up they can decide any custom they want to follow. They can become Ashkenazim, they become Sephardim, whatever they want to happen. Trust me. The main thing is follow the Torah. Doesn't make a difference. Ashkenazi, Sephardi. Yeah, that's the most important thing. But we know that besides what I just said, even though the halachas in Shulchan Aruch, because most of us don't realize that halacha comes from the Gemara. Halacha started off in the Talmud. That's where the Talmud is called the oral law. So that's what the oral law is. If you want to go to the oral law, you got to go to the Mishnah really first, and then you got to go to the Talmud. Without those two concepts, really, you don't know what the oral law is. Because most of us think the Shulchan Aruch, open a book of Jewish law, that's the oral law. But that's the oral law to do or not to do. But really, where's it come from? It comes from the Talmud.
Is the Talmud and the Gemara the same thing?
Yeah, Talmud Gemara, same thing. Same thing. Gemara is a Aramaic. I'm not sure. Maybe Gemara is Aramaic. Talmud is Hebrew. So the Mishnah is the source for the Talmud. So the Mishnah is the written of the oral law. The Talmud is also written ultimately. Both of them are written, but the Mishnah was written by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. That's the foundation of the oral law, and the Talmud's explanation of the Mishnah. Really, Talmud's explanation, expansion of the Mishnah. So if you really want to go to oral law, you really want to know Torah law, you got to learn Gemara, you got to learn Mishnah. And you can't live with Mishnah alone. You got to go to Gemara, you got to learn Talmud. And then you'll see what is oral law. You'll see what the law is. And there you'll see arguments nonstop. That's the point. That's the point. The point is to see arguments, to learn arguments, to different opinions. 100%. 100%. Where does this all start off from? I mean, you have a beautiful medrash where you see that the Eibishter God, so to say, says to Moshe Rabbeinu that they're going to have different opinions. I'm starting off the whole book with different opinions. Right? I'm starting off the book with different opinions. And I'm not saying either one is right or wrong. You go to the majority. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you one is better than the other. And we're talking about is it pure? Is it kosher or not kosher? Not something a philosophical question. The question is it pure or is it impure? And you can have an opposite of opinion. We're not talking philosophical difference. We're talking about is it kosher or not kosher? And there's going to be two opinions. It's kosher, and the other guy says it's not kosher. And they're not arguing because they don't like each other, because they believe, each one believes on the base of principles, the way he learned things, that's kosher. The other guy says not kosher. What do you do? You cannot, it's kosher, not kosher. One day I eat it, one day I don't eat it, one day I eat it, one day I don't eat it. I have to follow, either I eat it or I don't eat it. So God answers, you go to the majority. You go to the majority. So the majority are going to rule that it's kosher. It's kosher. The majority are going to rule it's not kosher. It's not going to be kosher. That's a good question. That's a good question. That's a good question. Hopefully not. First, it's not the majority. It wasn't a vote to the people. It wasn't a vote to the people. It was a vote to the sages that were arguing the question. You'll soon see a beautiful thing. You're going to soon see where it comes in a very practical way. Okay? But where did it all start? Where did it all start? So the Gemara says it all started in the way God gave the Torah, in this week's Passion, the way the Eibishter gave the Torah. Because it's a very interesting thing that we find that the Torah tells us when he gave the Torah to the Jewish people. So the verse says in Exodus this week's portion, text number 5, B'chodesh hashlishi, it was in the 3rd month. The children of Israel departed from when the children of Israel departed from Egypt. On this day, they arrived at the desert. Why is it important to tell us the 3rd month? What's important? What is important? I'm sitting in Boca to know that it was the 3rd month. What is it? If it was the 4th month, 2nd month, a month? Why does the Torah tell us this? The 3rd month. Instead of the Torah tell us the month when it was. It was Sivan. That's what the month it was. It was Sivan, right? The Jewish people went down the month of Nisan, and the Torah was given the month of Sivan. But why is it important to tell us the 3rd month? So the Gemara answers. The Gemara says the Torah wants to tell us something over here. Torah wants to tell us something over here, and that is, blessed is the text number 6. Blessed is the merciful one who gave a 3-fold Torah, right? A 3-fold Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim. 3-fold Torah. There's the Pentateuch and the Tetra, there's the Torah. There's the 5 books of Moses. There's the prophets, and there's the Ksuvim, the writings. There's 24 books in the Torah. It's not 5 books, right? There's 24 books.
What does it mean 3-fold Torah?
3-fold Torah, Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim. 3-fold. There's three different parts. There's the 5 books of Moses. There's another 11 books, I believe, of the prophets. And then you have the rest of the Ksuvim, Tehillim, etc. Megillas Esther, Megillas Echa, etc. It's all Ksuvim, the writings, right? To a 3-fold nation. No, that's the Talmud. That's Torah. That's Torah. That's Tanakh. That's not the Talmud. That's part of the written law. That's part of the written law.
That came later.
What's a 3-fold
What?
nation?
That came later.
What came later?
The 3rd, the 4th. So that's the 4th.
That's not 4. That's a writ. That's oral. It's not written. It's not written. It's written by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He wrote it 1,000 years later.
That's what I meant. It's later.
Yeah, but it's not. It's never called the written law. It's oral law. It's supposed to stay orally.
What's a 3-fold nation?
So 3-fold nation, Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim. The Jewish people divided into three different entities. By the means of the 3rd born, Moshe Rabbeinu was the 3rd of his family. Aaron was the older, Miriam, and then Moshe Rabbeinu. On the 3rd day, as the Torah come in the 3 days, I'm going to give the Torah on the 3rd day, on the 3rd month.
We should be betting 3, 3, 3, 3.
3, 3, 3, 3. That's it. 3. All the number 3. All the number 3. The Torah, when the Torah says in the 3rd month, because the Torah wants to emphasize the beauty of 3. The beauty of the number 3. Okay? So what is it? What is number 3? what's so beautiful about number 3? What's number 1? I mean, really, number 1 is the most beautiful number. 1 is unity. I mean, one. Hashem Echad. God is 1. That's the 1. 1 shows on that there's oneness. That it's all 1. I mean, that's beautiful, right? Imagine ki ish echad b'leiv echad, ki ish echad, like one man. That's beautiful. 1 is beautiful. Everything. Imagine the Shvili Nivra. If I lived in the world myself, it would be beautiful. I wouldn't have any competition. I would have nobody, no struggles. Look at Cain and Hevel. They had a struggle. Who's the 2 people in the world? They were fighting with each other. I'm 1. I don't want to have 2. Why? Because two is division. The second you have 2, we got problems, right? But you got division. You have so one is beautiful. 1 is unity. 2. We got problems, right? So that's why even the creation, the first day of creation, God says it's beautiful because it's 1. One day, the best day in the world, best day in creation. The second day, it doesn't say good anymore. It doesn't say good at all in the Parsha. Why? Because the second day you have division, separation between heavens and earth. There's division. Who is greater? Who is better? I'm better. I'm not. We have separation of the waters. We have fights. We have. Now comes the number 3. Now we have to understand the beauty of number 3. The beauty of number 3 is that we bring together 1 and 2. Number 3 brings together 1 and 2. That's why on Tuesday, the 3rd day, it says double. Double time. It says time. It says twice time. No, that's on Friday time. It says double time. If you look at it, double time, because it's Tov LaShamayim, Tov LaBrias means that the unity number 3 says, you know what? I'm going to find the beauty between 1 and 2. I'm going to bring together 1 and 2. 1 is beautiful, but what's the beauty of 1? Is that he's only himself.
What's the 3rd day?
Creation of the earth. The earth is the revelation of the earth. So the revelation of the earth.
1 is together.
Right. So revelation of the earth. Why was that beautiful? Because humans on the earth will bring about the unity of heaven and earth. And that's the beauty of the 3rd day. And that's why God says it's beautiful. It's double beautiful. Why? Because again, number 3 brings about this concept. It says, you know what? You're right. 1 is beautiful. 2 is separation. We got to find a way to bring 1 and 2 together. We got to figure out a way how to bring 1 and 2 together. How to bring 1 and 2 together. Number 3 is going to come and bring this unity between 1 and 2. And that's why the beautiful 3, number 3. How do we see that in Torah? You say it every day in your davening. Every day. Before Hoidu, we say the 13 ways the Torah was expounded upon. What's the last, at the end of that paragraph on page 25 in your Siddur? You say the Torah expounded by 13 rules. And now all the way in the bottom, the 13th rule, what?
Rebuild the temple.
No. V'chein shnei kesuvim, hamachishim zeh. When you have 2 verses that contradict the 13th, you have 2 verses, one that contradict the other. You gotta find the 3rd verse that will bring them together. The 3rd verse will bring them together. One of the examples is going to give you an example. So it says in this Parsha, in today's Parsha, it says page 76, text number 8. It says by Yered Hashem al Har Sinai al Shahar. It says, and God descended upon the Mount Sinai to the peak of the mountain, al Shahar, upon the peak of the mountain. That's what the verse says. Then in text number 9, in Exodus chapter 20, this is 19 of chapter of next chapter. It says, this is what you should tell the Jewish people. This is after the giving of the Torah. You have seen that I spoke in you from heaven. We have 2 verses that contradict each other. You have two verses that contradict each other. What do? One verse says he came down on the earth. The other verse says he spoke from heaven. He cannot. What do you do with it?
With him.
No, therefore you have to have the third verse, and that's the third verse of Deuteronomy. From the heavens he let hear his voice to instruct you. Upon the earth he showed us great fire, and that's how the third verse comes and says, "Relax. There's no contradiction. There's no struggle between the first verse and the second verse. There's beauty." Or the next verse, Rashi explains what it means. His glory was in heaven, his fire and his fire were on earth. And that's how the third verse comes and brings harmony. The third verse comes and brings harmony. This concept, you should know, you'll find a lot in the Gemara. This concept that you find psukim that in Jewish law even, that argue with each other. Verses that argue with each other. So it's interesting. The Torah was given from God, and he put in the Torah verses that argue with each other, that contradict with one another. It's not an unusual thing. This is not the only example. It's not an unusual thing. But you always have that third verse. You always have that third verse, that third verse that comes and tells us how to bring the two verses together. So it does. What's beautiful is that the third verse doesn't knock off any of the previous verses. It doesn't say, "Oh, I agree with the first verse. Let's get rid of the second verse." No, it says, "You know what? We're going to keep both verses." Right? I'm going to bring a harmony. I'm going to bring some understanding between the two verses, and the two verses stay the way they are. So the third verse brings beauty to the first and second verse. Where do we see this in Jewish law? A very famous story. Very famous story. Because rabbis argued with one another. We don't know the rabbis argued with each other. Right? One of the beautiful stories of the Talmud, two rabbis argued, was Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Shua. They argued on a very practical thing, very practical law. Rabbi Gamliel was the head of the academy. Rabbi Shua was part of the academy at that time, but Rabbi Gamliel was the leader of this court. So they had an argument. What happened that year? They used to establish the moon according to witnesses, right? Right? There's Chodesh, when two witnesses came and said they saw the birth of the moon. So they established that, okay, today is Rosh Chodesh. They came the first day of Chodesh is today, and Mazel Tov. It was very important that you know when Rosh Chodesh is. Why? Because it's holidays, when you have to know when the 15th of the month is. It happened one year. Two witnesses came to the court and they said, "We saw the moon last night. It was a Chodesh, it was Tishrei, the first day of Tishrei." So they established the month. The first day, that means that they established, let's say it was on Sunday. The established Sunday is a Chodesh, the first day of Tishrei. It's Rosh Hashanah. It's Rosh Hashanah. Mazel Tov, it's Rosh Hashanah. What happened was, the next night, when the night came, they didn't see the moon. Right? If there's the birth of the moon, then we have to see the moon. The rabbis are looking outside it, they don't see the moon. So what do? That means that the next day is a Chodesh. Right? But it's a problem. The Torah tells us you have to establish a Chodesh on the witnesses. And the witnesses said that they saw it last night. So what do? What do? Do you say we're going to follow the witnesses because the Torah says follow the witnesses, and today was Rosh Hashanah? Or do you say no? We ultimately saw it, didn't see it, so we saw it's going to be the next day, and Rosh Hashanah is going to be Monday. Now, if you change it from Sunday to Monday, that's going to change when Yom Kippur is going to be, and that's going to change when Sukkot is going to be. Change the whole month, right? So if you're going to say that follow the witnesses, then in 9 days will be Yom Kippur. If you say that it's the next day, in 10 days will be Yom Kippur.
Better to follow nature.
So that was Rabbi Yeshua said we follow. We had to follow. We got to go the next day. Rabbi Gamliel said you got to follow the witnesses, and the witnesses came last night. Today, with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is in 9 days. You had a whole debate in court, and it was established like Rabbi Gamliel. That Yom Kippur was today, Rosh Hashanah was today, and in 9 days is Yom Kippur. That was the law. Rosh Hashanah was today and tomorrow, because 2 days Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah is the first day was today. Tomorrow is going to be the second day. Yom Kippur is in 9 days. Now, according to Rabbi Yeshua, right? According to the descending, there's one who dissented, right? Who said no, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah starts tomorrow. Yom Kippur is in 10 days. So what happens on Yom Kippur? Which Yom Kippur did he follow? Did he follow Yom Kippur of Rabbi Gamliel 9 days later or 10 days later? What did he do? So Rabbi Gamliel was nervous what Rabbi Yeshua is going to do. What is Rabbi Yeshua going to do? Rabbi Yeshua is a great sage. What is Rabbi Yeshua? Shalach le Rabbi Gamliel, page 78. Rabbi Gamliel sent him a message to Rabbi Yeshua. And he said, I decree upon against you that you must appear before me with your staff and your money on the day in which Yom Kippur occurs according to your calculation. You need to come, travel to Yavne. The Rabbi Gamliel was in Yavne then. You need to travel to Yavne on the day that you don't think is Yom Kippur. That you think is Yom Kippur, I mean. Yom Kippur is by me on the 9th day. By you, it's going to be on the 10th day. On the 10th day, that Yom Kippur is over by us, you have to go take a journey. You have to take a knapsack with your money in it, and you have to walk down the road and travel to me to Yavne. Right? You have to show the Jewish nation that there's no dissent. That's the difference, Jewish law and regular law. When you have a court case in the Supreme Court, you have an opinion, the opinion of the majority, and then you have the opinion of the dissent. He writes his opinion. In Jewish law, you can have a dissent, but once we make a halacha, there's no dissent.
But then he couldn't travel on the day he felt was Yom Kippur.
He told me you have to travel the day. That's the point.
Right.
You should travel.
But
You
he
need-
couldn't, so he had to travel on the day.
No, that's the point.
It's a conundrum.
No, the point was you have to travel on the day you think it's Yom Kippur. Yeah, that's the point. You cannot show dissent.
Even though he's carrying money and everything.
Yeah, because the halacha is that's the day before Yom Kippur. Well, the day of Yom Kippur goes according to the majority, which was yesterday. You have to come the next day with, even though you decided that Yom Kippur was the next day you should come travel and show everybody that even though you dissented, but in halacha there's no dissent.
It's still the day before.
There's no halacha dissent. There's no concept of halacha dissent. Once the halacha comes out, we all agree.
Rabbi, Yom Kippur is the day you throw the goat out over the.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Does it say it has to be on the 10th of the month?
Yes. Yes. So when you're gonna establish the first Rosh Hashanah, you can know the 10th of the month. These days everything is calculated in the calendar, but in those days it was by the witnesses who saw the beginning of the birth of the moon. So it was a big problem. This is a story that happened. So Rabbi Yeshua took his staff and his money in his hand and went to Yavne, to Rabbi Gamliel on the day Yom Kippur occurred according to his own calculation. He said, you're right, 100%. I'm going to travel with my, because now the halacha is as even though I disagreed with you, but now the halacha Yom Kippur was Sunday, and I said it was Monday. I don't dissent anymore. Upon seeing this, when Rabbi Gamliel saw this, Rabbi Gamliel stood up and kissed him on his head and said to him, "Come in peace, my teacher, my you taught me. You have taught Yidden what means an argument in halacha. You have taught Judaism what means an argument. You're allowed to have an argument, 100%. That's don't look at the Gemara. But once we have a halacha, there's no argument." Rabbi Yeshua agrees that Yom Kippur is on Sunday, and the proof is that he's going to carry money on Monday, which he was and he held and he sheltered. The only reason why that year Yom Kippur was on Sunday because of majority. That means Rabbi Yeshua still he still officially said, "What do you mean? You might have a majority, but you're learning the verse wrong." He didn't change his mind. That doesn't make a difference. Once you have halacha, once it's established halacha, now you don't have a majority or minority. The halacha, there's no majority or minority. It's all of us. Halacha establishes all of us.
When did he fast?
On the when Rabbi Gamliel said, when the halacha said, he fasted on that day, on the day that the halacha says. Right? Well, you have the famous argument of Sham Beis Hillel. How you like the menorah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once halacha was established that you light it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beis Shammai lit the menorah like Beis Hillel. He lit the menorah 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Even though he argued the opposite. So he didn't say, "You know what? You do yours, I'll do mine." Or even he didn't say, "I disagree with you about it." No. Once halacha was established, then then we all united. We're united We're united together in halacha.
Doesn't work that way in the secular Israel.
Doesn't work that way. That's the Torah way.
Sure.
That's the Torah way. It doesn't work, and that's why you have issues, because even though everybody you have a majority, okay, then we'll get a majority. That's why we have the situation today. We'll get a majority the other way. Because the minority never descended, never agreed. So we'll just have to wait till we get the majority, and then we'll flip it over. But that's how it works in the secular way. That's what we're afraid. They're afraid. You're gonna put more conservative in there. You're gonna put more liberals. It's all a fight of how many you have in the court. So that means no law is real law, and it's true. It's not real law. It's based on man. This was based on God. They were not fighting their personal agenda. It was not politics. They were fighting a godly law. And God said, once you establish the law, it's the law. You cannot go now and get a majority. Beis Shammai is now going to go get a majority and is now going to flip over the law. Yeah, it's because it's politics. Because they've turned the whole court into politics. It's not about law. It's not about truth. It's about politics. And the truth is, when most people argue, it's not about truth. It's about their personal opinions. And therefore, even though they lose, nobody ever loses. Nobody wins, nobody loses, because I'm not going to change my opinion. So you're not going to, you have a big debate. You're not going to impress me. I'm not going to impress you. Have a good day. I'm not going to change you. You're not going to change me. So you go in your way, I go away. Look what the world turned into. Even in America, we have two people that have two opinions. They can't look at each other. But here we're sages. Yaveh HaKosev HaShlishi comes, right? You have an argument of Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua. like the spearheads of this argument, even though, and they both had camps, so to say, rabbis vying with each other in Jewish law. But when the law came about, when the law was established, the law is established. Rabbi Yeshua comes with gladness. Rabbi Gamliel tells him, show the world that you're not coming here out of force. You're not coming here because, I'm afraid of the majority. I'm afraid of no, because that's the law. That's the halacha. I have no dissent. I have no issue with Jewish law. That's why he said that's great. You can have other people that don't know, but you yourself have no issue. You fought this law, and you have no issue. That shows you what means. That shows you what means harmony and peace. That shows you what means harmony and peace in law.
Rabbi,
Yes.
does any of our halacha ever get amended?
No.
Okay,
No.
What's the question?
Does our halacha get amended? No, because it's not up to amendments. It's based on Torah, which is nitzchias, which is everlasting.
okay,
It gets massaged in a way because no, because the question is, how do you take a certain halacha, to bring it into new situations of the world? So you
right,
have modern technology, which your question is how you massage it into you take the laws of Shabbos and massage it into modern technology, and you can have difference of opinions how you connect it to the day-to-day situation.
right. Thank you.
But Shabbos is Shabbos. It hasn't changed. The halachas of Shabbos have not changed. The halacha of Yontiv has not changed. The halacha of Tefillin has not changed, etc., etc. But the beauty, in essence, the beauty of number 3, the Yove Akosav Ashlishi, the beauty of halacha, which is, I'm giving you an example. Number 3 is halacha, right? Because you have 2 opinions in the Gemara. Ultimately, you have the third opinion, which is God, that says go according to the majority. That opinion brings together both entities. Doesn't just accentuate one entity. It says the other one, you're a loser. You lost. Don't be a sore loser. The third part says, no, you're both right, but we're going to follow the majority. And therefore, everybody's in consent.
Is there always a third?
Everybody's in consent. What?
Is there always a third?
No, I'm over here. The third opinion is the concept of the majority. That's all I'm just giving you, the third opinion. The third opinion, this concept, is the concept of the majority. You have 2 opposites. The third opinion is the majority. That's God's opinion. God says, follow the majority. That majority brings unique unity. That's the third opinion, this concept, that you follow the majority. That was God's way of telling Moshe Rabbeinu how to bring together these 2 entities. And ultimately, when the majority was established, then everybody agreed. Then everybody then you put aside your personal philosophy. You put aside your personal things. And the beauty of the Gemara is, when you learn Gemara, because this machlekes is a famous machlekes in the Gemara, you got both opinions till today. That means till today, rabbis are arguing on these 2 opinions between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua. They argue with it till today, but we know the halacha. Today we don't have that issue because everything's on the calendar. But we still argue their opinion. Rabbi Yeshua was not pushed out of the book. He was not taken out of the book.
Rewrite history.
We didn't rewrite the argument because why? Because the truth is in Torah, you have Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel. You have both arguments are in Torah. Right? As God said, I'm going to give you both arguments. Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel's arguments both are in Torah. Both are in the book. But the Eibishter gave the third option, not third option, the third capability to bring arguments into fruition, to bring arguments into completion, to bring arguments into unity. And that was the Eibishter's way of bringing about unity between even 2 big arguments. And as I said, that happens throughout history. That happens throughout the Gemara. The Gemara might not say why the halacha is like one way, why the halacha is the other, but that's what happened. That's basically what happened. And that's the beauty. So we learn Bisham, Beisila, you learn Baye, Rava, you Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua didn't argue only on one thing, he argued on many things. Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Lezer, these sages argued on almost everything. Etc., etc. They argued. You learn the argument. You might even like one over the other. You might agree with the guy. That's why sometimes you're disappointed. You agree with the guy, and then you find out the Allah is not like him. so you come to a conclusion with the so to say. I don't want to use the losing, but with the one that Allah is not like.
The dissenting opinion.
The dissenting opinion. But my point is, there's no dissenting opinion.
But there is
Because once Allah is, there's no dissenting opinion. That's the real point of it. It was a dissenting opinion. No, it was not a dissenting opinion. There were two opinions. Before the halacha, there were two opinions. After the halacha, there's one opinion. So really, in Jewish law, there's no dissenting opinions. Opposing opinions. Okay. Because they're both opposing. So they're both opposing each other.
But then you accept one.
And the Torah tells you, the God tells you, go according to the majority. That's how you accept one. You don't accept one because you like him better or because you think he's smarter. You accept one because you go according to the majority. That's the problem. Why we don't make any halachas today at all. Because you're not a majority in anything, right? When you have majority, a constant majority. That's why we can't change halacha from the Gemara. You don't have majority anymore, right? There's no concept of majority. It's your majority, no majority. You're a Malabavitcher, you're a Satman. Oh, I have to follow I gotta follow your majority. There was a rabbi who came to the Rebbe, so we should get all the rabbis together. He said, that's World War III. But get all the rabbis together and let's make exactly. A couple of years ago, they decided to make a new Sanhedrin. It was like such an outburst. They made a Sanhedrin. Like there was such an outburst in the Jewish community. You're going to put together 70 rabbis. We have our own Sanhedrin. We're going to follow your Sanhedrin. Yeah. You're going to establish a Sanhedrin. We need Mashiach to come, and then with Shem, we'll have this thing. And that's why we don't change halacha. We'll never change halacha, etc. We don't change things that are brought down in halacha. So Amalei Bo B'Shal Rebbe B'Chachma, you're my teacher in wisdom, and you are my student as you accepted my statement. And that's, he said, you showed me that you base your opinion not on your emotions, you base your opinion on wisdom, and you can think that way. And I'm not taking away from you, but you realize that Allah is like me, and you're going to follow the law, and that's the beauty. So that's the concept of peace. That's the concept of when the Eibishter doesn't want to take away anybody's opinion. To God, we all have an opinion.
Everybody has a voice.
Everybody has a voice. You have a voice, and we're not even negating your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. But once you know what the halacha is, you have to become part of the general. You got to become part of the halacha. And the truth is, the opinion continues. As Rabbi Yeshua's opinion continued. It was not erased from the book. So your opinion continued. But it's an opinion. It's not what should be done. And you should say yourself, this is not the halacha. It's an opinion. And my opinion cannot change the halacha. And therefore, my opinion is beautiful, but ultimately, I agree with the halacha. I agree with the law. And that's the Yava Kosav Ashlizi. That is, in essence, the third. So that's the beauty of the Torah. You have two Jews and three opinions. That's beauty of life, that we all have an opinion, no question about it. Maybe she doesn't want that, the majority, I should impress upon the majority, should destroy the minority, overpower the minority. No. I don't want to suppress a minority. I don't want to suppress one Jew. I want to suppress one human. No human should lose his voice, should lose his opinion. But ultimately, he has to realize that his opinion cannot over-challenge the majority. And once you have a majority, you need, for peace and harmony, to follow the majority.
That's the way it works in the secular world too. And you have this written dissent, but you still follow the majority.
No, you protest and demonstrate.
Well, but you still have
Again,
to follow the
but my
majority.
point is, we don't have a written dissent after the court. You have a written dissent before. You don't have a written dissent after the court has been judged. You don't have a written dissent anymore. There's no written dissent. There's no dissent. There's no concept of dissent after the court has ruled.
But it's,
Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish law. No,
So what do you, going to paskin for?
because trust me, it's hard to paskin from the Shulchan Aruch. Because again, the Rabbi Yisrael wrote the Shulchan Aruch over 1,000 years ago. That's I'm telling you that today you have the not the halacha change, but the society changed, and different things that have changed. So the Shulchan Aruch, the Rabbi Yisrael doesn't talk about electrical machines. You're not going to find that in the Shulchan Aruch. The question is, how do you take halacha? Like you see the amazing thing today. They came up with a scooter, these things that people that they can have a Shabbos electrical scooter. It's amazing. You have to have rabbis today who can work out the situation. And how do you massage it into the situation? How do you put it together and that it works well? Rabbi Zakat doesn't talk about a electric scooter. He simply doesn't talk about it because there was no electric scooters in his day. But yeah, you cannot change it. Rabbi Yisrael does talk about the law of Shabbos and what it considers a malacha on Shabbos. And now the question is, how do we make this thing not a malacha? Can we make this thing not a malacha?
They do.
It's like,
And that you have to have Talmidei Chachamim of this generation that can sit down and work this out. And if they can't, they can't. Because it's not going to change halacha.
you can have solid
What?
state microphones and amplify your voice on Shabbos. Oh, if you believe in this school versus
No.
that school.
No, there's no Orthodox school. A non-Orthodox school is not a school. No Orthodox school says you're allowed to use a microphone on Shabbos. Nobody, not one Orthodox rabbi says you're allowed to use it. Not a conservative rabbi. No Orthodox rabbi says you're allowed to use a. No, there's no such thing.
There's a difference.
There's no such Orthodox rabbi.
There's a solid state.
There's not tilted. I'm telling you the facts of life. There's no Orthodox rabbi that allows a microphone on Shabbos. No, not you to show me such a thing. I have not heard of an Orthodox rabbi says you can't use a microphone on Shabbos. Can't. There's no Orthodox rabbi.
The right microphone is got.
There's no such thing. There's not an Orthodox synagogue in the world that has a microphone on Shabbos, and that's the proof of it. There's not an Orthodox synagogue in the world that has a microphone on Shabbos. So if you find me an Orthodox, trust me, if there was a halachic opinion, trust me, if there was a halachic opinion, there would be synagogues that have it. And even though maybe a lot of synagogues that would, but there will be Orthodox synagogue will go take it. For example, this scooter on Shabbos, you can find Orthodox rabbis that will say that it's not acceptable. It's not like the elevator. You find a lot of rabbis that disagree with the Shabbos elevator. But you have an opinion, Orthodox rabbi that has an opinion that you could use a Shabbos elevator, and therefore a lot of Jews use it. But if you wouldn't have one Orthodox rabbi that says that a Shabbos elevator is acceptable, you wouldn't have it. So there has to be. You have to find an opinion. There's no such opinion, and there's no such opinion at this present time. Maybe
20.
Rabbi,
Yes.
Look it up.
Yes.
are the newer challenges with modern
I can't hear what?
Are the newer challenges with modern technology being documented once an opinion is rendered?
100%.
Okay.
100%. There's an institute in Israel actually by a great sage, Rabbi Moshe Weiss, I think his name is, and they deal with these issues on a whole. They have a whole group of rabbis that deal. They came out with the electric scooter and all these things, and they render opinions. It's documented, and again, some rabbis will say we don't accept it. Okay, that's acceptable, but and some Jews won't use it. Some Jews will use it. But once you have an opinion by an Orthodox rabbi, an Orthodox group of rabbis that establish an opinion, now you have somebody to rely on, so to say, and you can do it.
Can halakha ever change?
No.
Okay, well, that's bad. I mean, it's bad. For example.
What's bad?
In the
Halacha is from God. How can halacha change? Can God change? No. Halacha can't change because halacha is from God. So how does halacha change? Halacha can change. If halacha can change, then it's not God.
It's not like the American Constitution.
Because the American Constitution is man-made. The halacha, it comes from the Eibishter. The Vad Hashem zu halacha. The word of God is halacha.
So it's
Halacha
okay if in the secular world things change.
Yeah, amendments it should change. A lot of things should change. A lot of things should change.
Make a list,
Yeah, I can give you a whole list.
long list.
Right, things should change. And thank God, things do change. There's amendments. Some things change to the good. Some things change to the bad. Whatever. But there's change. Human law is human law. We don't believe that the Torah is human law. It's God law. It can't change. If it can change, then God changes too. So if you know God, Ani Hashem Leishanisi, I'm God, I don't change. And if I don't change, the law is the law. It doesn't change. Society changes, nature changes, but not law, not Torah, not God. So God doesn't change.
You see, Hashem is no folks.
I don't. That's a negative kind of expression because the Abish is the most flexible. But the Abish is truth, and truth doesn't change. If it's true, it cannot change. If it's not true, it changes. Truth cannot change, and if it changes, then that means that it's not true. There was something wrong with it. It was not truth. If it's true, that's why the word emes is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the middle letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Emes, Aleph, Mem, Saf. Emes goes from the beginning to the end. If there's a change in the middle, it's not emes. So realize, if anything has changed in Yiddishkeit, it's not emes. So therefore, all these rabbis that bring Torah to the modern world, they never change the law. As I said, they have to be able to connect. That means you take Torah's emes, and now you fit the world into the Torah. It's not the other way around. That the world is emes, now I got to fit the Torah into this world. The rabbis take the Torah as emes. And now how do you fit the world into the situation? How do you take modern technology and fit it into the truth? Could you or can't you? If you can, you could, you could. If you can't, you can't. But that's the way it has to work. Because if it's emes, it's emes. If it's not emes, then yeah, change it. Make amendments to the Torah. Make it change the Torah. But you cannot change the Torah. You can't change the Torah too.
So,
Okay,
Rabbi
let's end this
Bukadar,
off. Yes.
can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So you're talking about the difference between a halacha that's deraisa and a halacha that's derabbanan?
No. I'm talking different halacha and no difference to me. Halacha that I said rabbanan. You have minhagim. That minhagim customs can change because everybody has their own customs. Customs can change.
So I don't think I completely understand when you say it can't.
Okay, this is not the class. This is not the class of what halacha is.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I just didn't understand what you were saying.
We got a little bit distracted. Okay, so halacha comes from God, and that's why these rabbis that argued in halacha, the whole Gemara of rabbis that argued in halacha, didn't argue about themselves. They argued about the law. They argued in the pasuk. They argued on the verse. What does the verse say? How is the verse expounded upon? As the verse itself can be learned in many different ways. Interpretation to the verse. It was not interpretation to we have a problem in the world. Let's interpret the verse differently. How do you interpret truly the verse? How do you understand the verse? And they argued on the verse. And as you remember, the first Medrash, the Medrash said that God said, I'm telling you the verse can be both. The verse can be both. I have no problem with the verse meaning both. But ultimately, you can't do both. So there has to be halacha. There has to be the law. How are you going to do? And that's the third verse that's going to come and tell you what to do. And the third verse in this concept is the majority. That's it. As simple as that.
Rabbi, did anybody ever approach you to ask you if using a scooter is okay?
Yeah. Many people have asked me.
So what do you do?
What?
What do you say?
I tell them that you will find rabbis that allow it. That's it.
What you do?
You throw it to another
When you
party.
go-
That's it. That's the Jewish way.
Deflex.
Deflex. No, yes, because Chabad rabbis would not be happy with such a thing. But I'm not, as I said before, you find rabbis who would allow it. So you find rabbis. You have nothing. You can go on those rabbis, and that's it. When people ask me, "She eat chalav akum," so I would say no, but you find rabbis that allow it. So chalav akum, milk, the non-Jewish milk. Chabad doesn't eat chalav akum. I'm not going to put my stringency on somebody else. Okay, next. Let's not get off. This is another subject. I was telling you, I don't put stringencies of myself on other people. That's it. If there would be no rabbi that in today's generation that would allow such a thing, I'll tell you no. Like I said, I don't think there's any rabbis that allow a microphone in the Shul Shabbos. I've never heard such a thing. If he shows me the opposite, I will concede. But in my mind, there's no sharab. Therefore, I wouldn't say you have a rabbi that says something. I never heard such a thing. Never heard such a thing. Therefore, we don't do it. I mean, even if you have a rabbi that says so, I wouldn't do it here because I'm running the shul according to Chabad. So I wouldn't do it here either. If your person comes and says, I want your scooter, you find a rabbi, you can find rabbis allowed, so do what you want. You're not asking my opinion, you're asking if there's a leeway out, if there's somebody in halacha that allows it. Yes, there is. That's it. That's a simple answer. Would I use it? No. That's it. Not because, and I don't look down at somebody that does use it. That's my personal stringency. That's my personal stringency. I'm entitled to be stringent. I'm stringent on a lot of things in my life. But I don't put the Rebbe would say, don't push your frumkeit on somebody else.
That's a good thing.
What's a frumka?
You don't push your religiosity on somebody else.
Oh. Rabbi, I think we all know you wouldn't use the scooter.
Right? I mean, but I'm not against it, because again, you can find some authorities that would agree with it, that would say you could, blah blah blah. So fine.
You would need to have
Fine.
an Erev with that scooter, right?
Native is not a problem. Yeah, we have a native here.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
For example, we have a native here. For example, I don't use the native.
Okay.
I made the native, and I don't use the native. But the Alter Rebbe was more stringent in the natives. He had a different rule when it came to native.
In terms of
But
traffic.
no, in terms of the way it needs to be surrounded.
Carry on.
So therefore, I don't carry. My wife does carry, so I give everything to my wife, and that's it.
I don't know. if
And that's
safe.
beautiful. What's wrong? Gesundheit. I do carry if I need to have something, if it's an emergency. My wife's not here, so I have to carry it, so I'll carry it. But in general, I try not to carry in this Erev.
Right.
And I made the Erev, and I coach the Erev, and I tell people to carry.
So people-
Understand? But if you want to go the Alter Rebbe's Erev, if you want to follow the Alter Rebbe and the laws of Erev, then this Erev is a problem. That's it. What's nothing wrong? It's nothing, it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. Okay, let's finish this off. Following Nisan, so the Rebbe writes in text number 31 was finished. Following Nisan and Iyar comes the month of Sivan, the third month, a month of the giving of the Torah. So Nisan is a month of Nisan is a month of redemption by God, redemption. The month of Iyar is the counting of the Omer. So it's the concept of the Jew changing himself. The whole concept of Omer is the Jew working on himself. And then comes the month of Iyar, the third month. Comes the month of the giving of the Torah. The Torah unifies all Jews in a manner of one heart. Namely, notwithstanding different temperaments of different Jews, which can at times even lead to complaints and arguments, the Torah creates peace among these different temperaments because we all follow the Torah. We all ultimately, hopefully, follow the Torah. So therefore, we can have different opinions, we can argue about it, but ultimately, we all follow. We all do the mitzvahs. We all follow the Torah. So the Torah brings peace. The Torah doesn't say you're wrong, you're right. The Torah says you're both right. You're right, and you're right, but we do things as follows.
That's beautiful.
And the Torah brings us together. And we all follow God. We have one God, we have one Torah, we have one land, we have 613 commandments. We all have the same thing. We all have different opinions. We can't agree with one another. So we don't agree with one another. At least we have something that unites us. That's the Kosav Ashlishi. We have the Torah that unites us. We have one Torah. Point being unified with one heart, a true peace. So we are in unison with one another. Because all of us are trying to connect to the Torah. All of us are trying to connect to God. And that's the beauty. And that's why the Alter Rebbe says, truthfully, if you want to have Avas Yisrael, if you want to have love of another Jew, if you're going to look at the other Jew's opinion or the other Jew's action, forget it. There'll never be peace, even within Jewish nation. The only way to bring peace in the Jewish nation is if you're going to look at their neshamas. And we all have a neshama. It doesn't make a difference that we think different. It doesn't make a difference that we act different. It doesn't make a difference that we come from different worlds and we come from different of opinions. But we all have one thing in common. And that's our soul. So if we all can look above the opinions and the physical differences and and we can look at what unites us, you'll have Avas Yisrael. You'll have love of another Jew. And that's why this ends over the last thing of the Alter Rebbe. There's a direct and easy path, the Alter Rebbe, is to fulfilling the mitzvah of love your fellow as yourself. With regard to every Jew, great or small. For in reality, we are all equal. And we have one Father in heaven. We have one Father. That's it. That's the truth. So the truth is, you're this, I'm that, I'm a Lubavitcher, you're not, you're blah, blah, blah. There's no Lubavitch in the Shama, and there's no Satmar soul, and there's no Visionist soul, and there's no Reform soul, there's no Conservative soul, there's only souls. And therefore, for in reality, we are all equal, we all have a neshama, and we have one Father. Therefore, all Jewish people are called siblings, in the full sense of the word. For we all share a common root in one God. Only our bodies are distinct from one another, but not our souls. And so too, the Torah tells us the beauty of Torah is if we can look at the Torah that was given on the third. That's why the Gemara says the Torah was given on the third day. It was given on the third month. It was given to a child of the three. It was given to a nation that has three. It was given, etc., etc. Why? Because the Eibishter wants you should have, everybody is equal. Everybody should have an opinion. Everybody should not agree with one another, maybe. But nevertheless, we have a unifying force in us. We have not only have a unifying force, our soul, we have a unifying force, the Torah. We have the Torah mitzvahs that unite us as one. We all put on tefillin, we all light Shabbos candles, we all keep kosher, we all daven, etc. You might daven like an Ashkenazi, I might daven like a Sephardi. You put on tefillin this way, I put on tefillin that way, blah, blah. Who cares? We all put on tefillin. That's the most important thing. We all are united with God. And when we're united with God, then that's that might bring ultimately even unity and everything else. But we need to start off. That's the easy. That's what Alter Rebbe. There's a direct and easy path. We're trying to bring peace in our differences. We need to bring peace in our unity, in the things that we are united with, in the things that we are equal. And let us look at it that way, and it'll ultimately bring peace in everything else. Beautiful Sikha. God bless you all. Everybody should be in Shul this week to hear the 10 Commandments. Everybody needs to come to Shul to hear the 10 Commandments, wherever you are. Have a wonderful and beautiful day.
You too. Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless you all.
Rabbi.
Make it
Amend
better.
the couple